Hello, today we have with us Assistant Professor Abdelrahman Azzuni from Hussein Technical University in Jordan, Professor of Energy Engineering.
All right. Well, thank you very much for hosting me to those interviews. I'm delighted to talk to you today about energy transition, climate governance in Jordan. So, from my background, I'm an assistant professor, as Joy represented me. I'm assistant professor in energy engineering at Hussein Technical University, and observing what is going on in the energy sector in Jordan. I can tell you energy transition is actually like very important topic in the Jordanian context. There are different aspects of the energy transition. Aspects are related to researchers and academic people like myself, aspects related to the public, and aspects related to the government. And actually, that can help us understand energy transition, climate governance in Jordan in more details. So, when it comes to researchers, actually, researchers trying to make different scenarios, different future scenarios. They're trying to perceive, trying to forecast what is going to happen in the energy sector in Jordan. They're trying to forge a pathway of how things actually can move forward for the energy sector in Jordan. Different researchers also have different goals when they're building their energy scenarios. For example, my own goal was to achieve 100% renewable energy systems in Jordan in 2050. And one of my papers is published under this title. But other researchers, they have the goal that we want to get more independence, both from the political and economic views. Political, because we are actually importing most of our energy sources from outside. So researchers are trying to achieve a goal by building and forging a scenario where we get more energy independent. And for economic reasons, the scenarios are built in order to reduce the energy cost that the government is actually paying. And as we're going to see, this also goes hand in hand with the government aspects of the energy transition and climate governance. So this is for researchers, and this is what researchers have been trying. If you go to search for what researchers are doing, you can just try and type down energy transition in Jordan, and you'll find many different views on that. But energy transition is not only in the academia life. It's not only about writing papers. It's actually a thing that we witnessed, myself and many people with me. They've witnessed this energy transition being driven from the public. So I call it public driven. Most of the time, the public driven transition is linked to economic reasons. The first one that actually everyone almost have seen in the last 10 years. So 10 years ago, when electric vehicles started to come to Jordan, people would laugh. What? When you're going to buy an electric vehicle, you're going to buy an electric vehicle. How are you going to go to Aqaba, which is 400 kilometers from Amman? And even those who've never been to Aqaba before, they're starting criticizing those guys who got electric vehicles. But what happened in those last 10 years? Electric vehicles proved um, that they are able to reduce your gasoline consumption, or the money that you pay for your transportation. So they started to get like widespread. People started to adopt them. People started to accept the existence, and most of the people nowadays are just buying electric vehicles, not because they really care much about the environment, but rather because they can reduce how much they pay from their monthly salary on fuel and gasoline. So public driven and shift in the people's mentality in order to use electric vehicles is very important aspects of the energy transition, because gasoline consumption, fuel consumption is going less. Electric consumption for transportation is getting higher, and with the time, with the people's acceptance and the social acceptance of such vehicles, we can see energy transition even going faster than anticipated before. When it comes to the other aspects for the public driven, it is the people are installing rooftop PV solar systems, and they are installing the PV solar systems actually in order to reduce their electricity bills. So it's the same. It's economic reasons that they have, that made them to install those PV solar systems. They are adopting the renewable energy life. They're using solar PV systems in their houses, in their like workplaces, in industry places, in their factories, not because actually they like how they look, or they think, oh, we're going to contribute very much to the CO2 or greenhouse gas emission reduction, but rather because it made sense to them in a way that they can reduce their energy bill. So that makes the energy transition being accepted from the public to have a stronger drive rather than just researchers following up on how things can go. So public-driven energy transition in Jordan, I would say, is one of the very strong aspects of the energy transition and how we actually try to mitigate climate change.
Yeah, thank you, Abdelrahman. Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to go into more detail about how you emphasize this move to greater independence and public input. As a researcher yourself, can you talk about the more official channels of collaboration between research and academics with government institutions? Is there a legal framework for this type of collaboration? And also addressing the economical side of things, could you talk about more details as to how this has been financially efficient for Jordan, this just energy transition?
All right, yeah, well, thanks for the question. Actually, that's linked to my third aspect, the government-driven energy transition. Jordan as the government and Jordan as people, they have been facing a lot of financial difficulties when it comes to the annual government budget, where most of that budget is actually used to import oil from oil-rich countries. So the political will has been there for a while that we're trying to get rid of being dependent on someone else's resources. And the governments, well, with the knowledge and expertise from the academia, um, being like or having the Ministry of Energy actually in Jordan, collaborating with researchers in universities and different consulting companies, asking them to provide them with scenarios. And even with the ministry itself, they have some very strong expertise in the field of energy, trying to see where we can cut our independence on foreign oil or like oil resources from outside. That being said, the collaboration is not only with academia, it's also with international corporates where bids, or there is an open call for bids that those companies they can come and provide us with their own idea of what renewable energy systems can be built in Jordan. They benefit themselves, those international companies, but also Jordan has got many mega scale projects for renewable energy in the southern part of Jordan, in Tafila, for example, or in Ma'an. So those big international corporations, they came and they provided us with a solution that we can cut off our oil imports from other countries. So that's political will from the government that they're trying to get more like energy independent and having renewable energy sources from within Jordan. For the economic reasons, the government is well aware that most of its budget is going to the oil imports or to the energy imports, oil and gas. So they have been trying to provide subsidies, tax reductions for electric vehicles, and subsidies as well for rooftop PV solar systems. So 2 or 3 weeks ago, the government reinitiated a program that would pay civilians or anyone who is willing to install a PV solar system on their rooftop with 700 JD. That's almost 1,000 USD. So this is considered as subsidy from the government. So people are more willing to install this solar PV systems on their rooftops. That's the economic um, drive for for the government, because those subsidies, the 1,000 USD that they are paying to the normal people in order to install PV solar systems, they're going to get that money back from the cuts of energy imports. So they're going to pay it once for people in order to install solar PV systems, but this 1,000 USD is going to be saved from the government annual budget for the next 50 years or so. For tax reduction for electric vehicles, the government is well aware of the how the taxation system works, and for normal vehicles, there is a high taxation. For anyone who imports a normal vehicle from outside, they have to pay a lot of taxes for that vehicle to be sold in Jordan. But when it came to electric vehicles, the government thought, okay, we're going to cut down the taxes. We're going to have tax reductions for electric vehicles. We're not going to get revenue from taxation of those vehicles. But on the other hand, we don't need to buy a lot of natural gas and oil from the outside with the hard currency in order to generate electricity. So this made the balance in the government budget. Okay, we're going to pay this subsidy tax reduction, but at the same time, we're going to like help in the energy transition for a more for a greener future.
I wanted to go into more detail about your thoughts on how inclusive Jordan's energy transition campaign is with the subsidies and the tax reductions. Of course, that does yield economic benefits to those who have access to cars and use electric vehicles. But can you talk about the sectors that maybe are not being as adequately addressed under the climate adaptation plans?
Yes, thanks for the question. Having an inclusive strategy is very important. And I personally think a government that is actually willing to have a stronger energy transition to the future, a just one, it needs to have more inclusive aspects of the energy planning system. Actually, in Jordan, the things that are obvious are the ones that I have mentioned for the solar PV systems and for electric vehicles tax reduction. But that's not only the case. The government is trying to address all those in need. And doing that, they're trying to subsidize every single house, every Jordanian single house electricity bill, because they know people are, well, not everyone in Jordan has like enough access or financial capacity to pay high electricity bills. So what the Jordanian government did, they decided to have a special tariff with subsidized tariff actually for every Jordanian, for every single Jordanian family using their family book, they can get that subsidy. And also the government provided kind of like diesel subsidy for bus drivers, for truck drivers, because of the increase in gasoline and diesel prices. So anyone actually as in need, the government is trying its best to subsidize their energy consumption in order to have a more inclusive system that takes care of even those who don't have the privilege to install their own PV systems or to use their own electric vehicles. So it is a kind of a way that it's inclusive but not direct. Those who have the privilege to have their solar PV systems installed on their houses, they have a direct access to the subsidies. Those who don't, they have indirect access to the subsidy through the diesel subsidy or through the electricity bill subsidy, etc., etc.
Yeah, thank you so much, Abdelrahman. And just a final question, since we're still coming out of COP28, I just wanted to hear your thoughts on whether COP has facilitated these energy transition goals of Jordan, or any concrete goals have come out of COP in regards to this strategy.
All right. Well, thanks. When it came to COP, many of the researchers, friends of mine, university, like professors, even like three or four of my students went there, and they came back with two main things. They came back with how advanced companies are and how possible those companies are going to take part in the energy transition, how we can have a collaboration with those companies, international companies, in order to import the technologies and use it in Jordan. And the other thing was the social political aspect of the energy transition, something that we have touched on, the inclusiveness. But my students, for example, they thought, okay, we enjoyed ourselves. People talked about different topics, and we found how important it is to have such an inclusive transition in order to take care of different aspects that they have been talking about in COP. So I think those are the two things that COP helped, or at least from my own personal like vision, how COP helped Jordan in their energy transition planning and strategies.
Thank you so much, Abdelrahman, for joining us today and for your excellent input.
No worries, you're most welcome.